So we've done this Metal Junkie stuff. We've put it out.
Right.
So explain to us your love for the dark arts.
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, if you've heard the demos that I've written to like demo, you know, these packs and stuff.
They're mostly what I imagine would be on Malfoy's iPad or iPhone when he's like warming up to like
for sure
try to destroy Harry.
There you go. When I write music, like this is just what comes out. This is like everyone has the tone that they're hearing in their head.
Right.
Mine sounds like that.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say when you first listened to metal though?
When I first so I remember my sister was a cheerleader. And in high school, I was in like 8th grade, maybe 7th grade.
Okay.
And I had gone to a basketball game, a high school basketball game, because she was cheerleading. And the song Wherever I May Roam by Metallica was playing as the varsity football team was coming out. And I was like, what is this music?
Oh, wow.
This is the greatest music I've ever heard. And that, I mean, you know, this was like, I don't know, the other current music that was happening was like November Rain.
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
you know, Green Day, Dookie was popular.
Yeah.
Like, so Metallica was like just another level. I was like, this is it, man. I want this sound all the time.
Yeah.
Forever.
Did you have to ask someone like, who is this?
My friend's older brother, I knew, was like listened to a lot of metal, and it took us a while to find it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, it starts really, how do you explain it? You know what I mean? And you don't know who the
You
band
can't stick
is.
your phone up and be like, what song is this?
Yeah.
There was no whatever.
Yeah,
that
there was
is.
no Shazam. There was none of that. It was like, I don't even know. Like, think about it. I was like, it's a really good metal song. I don't even know how to, it's like,
Yeah.
and he's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, it took a while to find, but we found it.
But you found it.
And then I remember when I was like, I don't know, I had a job when I was 16 working at a restaurant. I think the Metallica's Black Album, I just remember listening to it driving back and forth from work. I think Metallica's Black Album was in my truck CD player for like 3 years straight.
Right.
Wow.
That was like, that's all I listened to. So anyway, it started young.
Well, what do you want to
Still
pull up
going.
here? What do you want to pull up? And then we'll talk
Do
about
it's called the Boogie MK7 is what it's called. That's like the pack. Gosh, that actually sounds really good.
Do a little batter. Do that bit. I said it last time. I'll say it again. It sounds like my baby screaming into a microphone, learning how to talk.
That's what people are here for.
Into a boogie. That's what people are. That's what people are here for. John, we obviously put out all the Metal Junkie stuff.
Yeah.
How did this happen? How did we get here?
It's actually, I don't remember. I don't remember all the
How did we Metal Junkie?
I think I said to you at one point in time, a long time ago, I think you're missing an opportunity.
Yeah.
You should have like a metal version. Because people ask
like
you,
my parents, John.
people ask you like,
yes.
Hey, why don't you had the Mesa Boogie Mark 7. There's a lot of metal tones you missed here.
High gain.
Yeah. Did you know I only make clean tones?
It's been leveled many times.
So a lot of people have been saying for years. I'm not sure what they're listening to.
Right.
I one time I've done several Marshalls, cranked them to 10, and I'll have people comment, "Why did you only do it clean?" I'm just like, I don't know if I'm not understanding something or if you're not understanding something, but
I think it just has a lot to do with like, I don't know. I think it has a lot to do with the guitar you're using to when you're dialing
100%.
You know what I
Pickups
mean?
are a huge thing.
Yeah. It's a big thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
A huge thing. Because I even recently bought this kind of with this in mind, and this makes a huge difference. And this isn't even like metal pickups. These are just more rockin' modern pickups.
I love that guitar.
You know,
though.
it's a great guitar.
Yeah.
But
how did I think I had said that, and you're like, yeah, that'd be cool, that'd be interesting. And then it was like maybe a year had gone by.
Yeah.
And
That's how it always goes.
Yeah.
I had an idea.
But I don't know. I think I got into writing music like at the end of last year.
Yeah.
Right? It was
Yeah.
like
I
I
remember
bought
that,
these
yeah.
guitars.
Yeah.
I wanted to,
Well, you had, of course, written music before.
Oh, yeah, but it was
you know
like
what I mean.
I had
but you were
start-
like, I'm going to start doing some demos and like really make
Yeah,
stuff.
sorry. Started writing music again
I think
Yeah.
it started when you got the drum set.
20 years later.
When
Well,
you started
yeah.
playing drums, it was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
because remember you sold all your guitars, and it was kind of like you were
No,
going.
I was really
downhill.
down.
Well, not all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, you still had.
You had like 2,
I was down to like 2 or
Yeah.
3 at one point.
right? But then you got a drum set, and then you bought like 10 more guitars.
Yeah.
and it was like, okay, he's back.
Yeah. But like
Yeah.
you kept the telly around, you were playing some church stuff.
Yeah.
But you were like Icarus. You flew too close to
I
the
flew
sun.
too close to the sun. I don't know what that means, but
Sounds.
I
good.
definitely I don't know how that relates.
You said to me
but
at some point, you were like, don't people like want metal stuff from you? And I was like, yeah. People
Right.
want a lot. People want everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
People of all. I get a lot of. Tone Junkie would get a lot of requests that was like, hey, can you do like a Mezzabara this? You know, I'd get non-ironically, can you do a Randall Satan?
Right.
And I'd just be looking at these comments going like, of all people,
it's a real
I'm supposed to do, you want me to do this, you know?
right.
And so you and I started chatting about this, and this started where you came over and you said, hey, I want to make some stuff, and I really want to do it with like a more metal voice.
Right.
And I was like, I think that'd be great. What are you thinking? And we started chatting about what this could look like. And the first thing we did was we got together and we sort of made some IRs. We took some IRs and we sat down with like, did we bring amps?
Yeah, it was the Mesa Boogie Mark 7.
Yeah, the 7 and I guess that was the amp we really looked at.
That was the amp
But
we
I started
did
pulling
it,
out cabs.
yeah.
I was like, okay, here's my Mesa 212 V30.
Right.
Here's my, I think we did like an old Marshall
Here's the
cab.
Marshall,
you
and
know,
then the orange also.
and the orange, right. And so I was like, okay, let's mic this. And so I started looking at, you know, how the metal guys mic their stuff. You know, it's time to put away some of the old Tone Junkie favorites in terms of, you know, how I was doing things.
Yeah.
And then we just sort of went for a little more aggressive.
Yeah.
I don't want to say direct, but it's a quick attack. It's just more, you know, that. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of like dynamic sound.
Right.
I would say, and so we made those IRs, and then and that was like the start, and then you started doing amps and using these IRs for different stuff. The plan is to kind of do more IRs, I think, and more amps
Yeah.
and everything.
Well, yeah, so the way that I'm making the profiles though is a little bit different than the way you make them.
Yeah,
So the way I make the profiles is that I'm really only capturing direct signal from the amp.
yeah,
So I think it's really common for people to kind of bring their own IRs, especially with
sure,
at least what we're finding with heavier tones and
Sure.
stuff.
sure.
And so, you know, my family is thankful that they don't have
Yeah.
to listen to.
But everything has everything. You're capturing a lot of direct, but everything has IRs with it when
Yeah.
it goes out. Obviously, there's some directs, but
Oh,
you're
yeah, yeah.
capturing the amps direct. And then using an IR to
Yeah, like
get
all the
capture out
Kemper
of it.
profiles have that.
Yeah.
The Mesa Boogie or the Mesa Boogie 212.
So if people want to you can basically treat them like merge profiles,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is not usually something I do. If
No,
you want to defeat the cab on the stage, use a real cab
Yep.
for sound. You can easily do that. You can easily send the cab to
Yep.
front of house, or you can just
Or you
defeat
can
the
swap
cab
out a
yourself.
cab for your own cab or whatever.
Yeah, or whatever. Change all the
But
IRs,
they're,
that whatever.
They're
Come.
playable out of the box, and then if you have a powered Kemper, it's
Yeah.
easy peasy. Same thing with Quad Cortex and Tone X.
Yeah.
So they kind of the Tone X presets ship with with that same IR,
Yeah.
and then they're like applied to all of the captures, but you can easily swap it out for whatever you want
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we're the 3 packs we have the Mesa Boogie Mark 7, which is a beast of an amp.
Yes.
That man, when I was profiling it too, I think I may have mentioned to you, I was like, man, there's 9 channels on this amp, There's really kind of only 7 because the clean and the fat are the same on both. But
Yes.
there's like 7 channels on this amp, and they all kind of sound the same. But then after my ears had some time to recalibrate,
Yeah.
I was like, man, each of these amp sound, like these channels, have their own character to it, and I've actually grown to enjoy the amp more.
Right. The more you play it.
The more I play just around the profiles, that's usually my go-to. The other one we have is the EVH 5153 50-watt version, the EL34 version.
Yeah.
My gosh,
It's all the gain in
you
the world.
guys, this
Like
amp,
all of the gain in the world.
this amp has more gain than all of your amps
all
in
the
the
amps
room
combined.
combined.
Like if you put them in front of each other, it's like
It's
amp, amp, amp.
insane
Yeah.
how much gain this amp has. And so that was a fun experience,
Yeah.
trying to kind of capture that well. But it
Yeah.
also, it's cool. It has like a resonance knob, which is like a depth knob almost.
Yeah.
It's like a
Which
good,
can get really
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 beefy,
low in the low.
really,
yeah, yeah.
really boomy.
really deep in the low end. Yeah.
And then I did your modded,
The modded JCM 800.
the JCM 800. Which, I mean, obviously has a different vibe than the other ones. The other ones are sort of like really geared to be high gain amps, almost.
Yeah.
That one is, it just doesn't have the sort of modern high gain take to it.
Yeah, it's a modified Marshall from like the late '80s when that was the thing going on. That was in the early era of like we want way more gain out of the amp, and how can we do that? Cascading gain stages, early thing, and
if you're doing like Iron Maiden, if you want to play along with Iron Maiden stuff, or you want to play along with kind of any kind of Def Leppard or anything
I'd say
like
it's
that,
like more of a hair metal amp.
Yeah.
And it was big in that time. It was Paul Gilbert's amp. He played one of those.
Yeah.
Eddie, we know at least owned one. I don't know if it's on Eddie recordings, but he at least owned one. I think Whitesnake has that amp on a ton of stuff. There's several like hair bands of the 80s that have those.
It's got a lot of gain. It's got tons of gain. But it's a lot more mid forward than the other guys.
Yeah.
So that's what we're starting with. We've got plans to do a whole lot more.
And it's on Kemper, Quad Cortex,
and
Tone
Tone
X.
X.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's really different. I mean, these are not things I would have created had I tried. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like like I just, John, can you just make these? I don't have time.
Right.
It's, I wouldn't have come up with this stuff. It's not, it just, people have asked me for years, like, why don't you do more of that? And it's just, I'm not like well versed in this. You know what I mean? I have a real appreciation for how like, this pre-top boost AC30 sounds compared to this post-top boost or with the kit. I'm just not in the other world.
And the difference, I mean, know, all joking aside, it's no, I don't know. You guys don't love listening to metal like I do. And so you don't have like the hours spent listening to all of the different nuances and all of the different, it kind of sounds to the outside, I think it can sound like very much the same over and over, but there's actually a ton of variation into it. Yeah. So much so that I almost didn't want to call it Metal Junkie because it's like, I don't know, we're going to start a war with like, is it, what kind of metal? You know what I mean?
Well, that's always a thing. Right.
But I think it's like, a good term for it. I'm happy about.
No, it's
the way it all turned out,
proper like brand extension. Where it's like obviously like Tone Junkie does what it does, and this is kind of
it's its own thing for sure. So we may do the same amps in the future again.
Yeah.
Right. Where I have just a completely different. I mean, and there's honestly over the years, there's been times where I'm like, I would approach this amp way differently.
Yes.
You
I
know
know
what
you've
mean?
voiced that to me over the years. You've voiced it to me.
Now you can get both.
So have a lot of
I
other,
can
so
get
a lot of
both.
other people. But look, I mean, there's just stuff that I'm not gonna ever, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, that Metal Junkie's gonna get to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, people will be seeing Metal Junkie stuff on the channel around here. I mean, look, there's stuff that is so scooped. I'm like, I don't know. Like, my telly doesn't know what to do with this.
That's the other
You know?
thing too. You
It's
don't.
like-
you gotta have the good. You gotta have
Yeah,
the
and you
right
gotta
guitars for it.
Yeah, and you got to be
Like this one?
Yeah, like that one. Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
this into a Mark
Right.
7?
I mean, you could probably do it, but
Yeah.
you know,
I feel like we may do that before the day's over.
It's
at
very
least-
possible.
At least put his phone mic into it and see what that sounds
Oh
like.
yeah. I probably don't plan on doing profiles with the pink phone mic.
Okay, so that we should
Metal
do that.
phone
We'll
IRs.
save that. That'll be a Tone Junkie exclusive. So we'll save that. Let's. I have a question. What do you think could be coming next? Without knowing, what are you eyeballing? As a metal fan and a lover of tone, what are you eyeballing?
So
that you want to do?
one
next?
of the things I've been wanting to do for a long time, and this is purely for my own enjoyment,
Mm-hmm.
is to re-buy the Hughes and Kettner Triumph Mark One that I toured with.
Okay.
In East West.
Yeah.
They're becoming more and more rare.
Yeah.
I regret selling it when
Mm-hmm.
I did. Like, I should never have done that. It's a beast of an amp. It's a 3-channel amp.
Yeah.
So I'm for sure going to buy one of those. But I mean, there's so much other stuff. There's so much PV stuff that's so good.
Sure. The Triple X.
There's so much.
The JSX. I had a buddy who played a Joe Satriani signature. It's like a modified Triple X.
Oh, really?
That was modified for Joe before he went back to Marshall.
But
And
there's
it was a phenomenal sounding rock and roll amp.
Yeah.
It kicked the butt of every Marshall in the room.
Right.
And he would play rock.
Yeah.
And then we'd play church stuff.
Yeah.
He was like a real rocking guy, but some amps
There's
have tone, man.
definitely. I'm looking at, like, obviously we're gonna do a bunch of Mesa Boogie amps.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
we have to. The transatlantic one, the obviously all the rectifiers. You know,
Mm-hmm.
my only I'm not jumping at the chance to do a dual rectifier because I think there's like 3,001 profiles of all
sure.
of these that already exist.
Sure.
And quite honestly, a lot of them are really, really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the Mesa Barba ones would be great.
Yeah.
And there's probably some Friedman stuff
Yeah,
that
for
I'm
sure.
looking at. So
For
the
sure.
list is I remember when we first did it, I was like, here's a list. It took me like an hour.
I just saw that list like yesterday, and I was like, look at all those amps.
so many. The
Yeah.
list is not short.
Yeah.
So
What's like the heaviest amp out there? Like, is there like a top of the gain food chain?
honestly, I'm surprised that I would be shocked if there was an amp that had more gain than the EVH amp. But I think the Randall Satan is
Appropriately named.
yeah, it's pretty up there. The Fortin Nameless amp that they just dropped like a bunch of plugins, I think.
What's the brand?
Fortin.
Fortin.
Yep.
Never heard of it. I know you're shocked.
Yeah. That's like I think it's the Meshuggah. I
Yeah.
think it's the guitar player from Meshuggah that
Yeah.
uses that.
Yeah.
That's got I mean I don't know. You know, it's what's crazy too, it's like when you get into the really, really high gain stuff, I think what makes it interesting. So like, okay, in like the normal Tone Junkie world, like edge of breakup,
Yes.
there's like this sweet spot you're looking for where it's like chimey and clean, but if you dig just a little bit in, you get like very good breakup. And then if you just go all out on a bridge pickup, it's like rock and roll.
Yeah.
Right? That's like
Yeah.
your sweet spot where it's like
Yeah.
it can kind of do all these things.
Yeah. But like take you to the dance rock and roll.
Exactly.
Not
No,
like
no, no.
steal your
Not
soul
metal.
rock and roll.
No,
Yeah, there
not
you go.
metal, just rock and roll.
And just so we
Right?
so we all knew what we were
Right.
talking
Yeah.
about. Good old wholesome
Safe rock and roll.
good old
Yeah.
wholesome like footloose let's dance rock and roll.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
50s rock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Church rock.
Come on, Sally, we're going to the sock hop. I don't care what your parents say.
Right.
Yeah. We'll be home by 10.
Yeah.
I feel like the equivalent of that for like ultra high, like high gain amps.
Yes.
Is it's got enough low end, but it's not boomy. But you've got enough like high end, but it's not shrill.
Yeah.
And then like, yes, it's scooped mids, but there's like good amount of like upper mids, and it just there's like there's like these sweet spots that you're trying to find where yes, the gain is part of it, but it's really just, and that's, you know, the whole gent thing, right? It's like it has turned into a genre, but it's really not a genre.
Right.
But it's like that's what people are looking for. It's like literally this sound of like a palm mute.
Any guitar that sounds like this is this genre.
Yeah.
Yeah, regardless of the genre.
But like that's the sound. That's the sound you're looking for, where it's like the palm muting, just balls to the wall kind of chug stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, awesome. It's available at metaljunkieStore.com, and go check it out.